Recently, a woman influencer was found dead, confirmed murdered in her vehicle in Punjab. And you'll be shocked to know that there's justification coming in on this moral policing and on this murder. Sadly, that justification has come in from one of the most prestigious, powerful positions when it comes to religious issues, the Akal Takht Sahib. The Akal Takht head priest has backed the murder in the sense saying basically that because of the obscenity that was showcased, there has to be a lesson taught that there was nothing wrong in the murder. Giani Malkit Singh's shocking remark has come in and it raises a lot of questions at a juncture like this because you're such a senior, spiritual, religious leader. Anything that you say is going to be likely picked up by the masses. So rather than ask for introspection or to take a step back or follow the law, if there was anything objectionable in her videos, someone could have filed a complaint, taken it up as per the law. But at this juncture, such a respected religion of Sikhism, such a valuable part of Indian ethos, someone at the helm of affairs of the Akal Takht to say that there is nothing wrong in the murder. This is at a time when terrorist Arsh Dalla's link also emerged to the murder. Remember, we are talking about recently when a dead body was found of influencer Kanchan Kumari. Now, she was an influencer, vlogger, was making her videos. If someone found it offensive for any reason, does that mean one will go and kill her? And what was so offensive that even the Akal Takht would justify? Let's listen into what he's saying.
ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਦਿਨ ਇਸ ਕਾਰਜ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਵਿਸ਼ੇਸ਼ਤਾ ਦਾ ਦਿਹਾੜਾ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਗੁਰੂ ਹਰਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨੇ ਪਾਵਨ ਤਖਤ ਰਚਿਆ। ਉੱਥੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਲਚਰਤਾ ਭਰੇ ਗੀਤ ਤੇ ਗੰਦਗੀ ਤੋਂ ਦੂਰ ਰਹਿਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨੇ ਉਪਦੇਸ਼ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਮੇਰੇ ਮੋਹਨ ਇਹ ਸਾਕਤ ਨਾਦ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗੀਤ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਰਵਣਾਂ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੈਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ। ਭਾਵ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਨੌਜਵਾਨੀ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ, ਹਿੰਦੂ ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨ ਤੇ ਸਮੁੱਚੇ ਵਰਗ ਦੇ ਨੌਜਵਾਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਗੰਦੇ ਗੀਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੁਣਨੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ। ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਲੋਕ ਕਾਰਜ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਧਰਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਨਾਮ ਚੇਂਜ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਕੌਮ ਨੂੰ ਬਦਨਾਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੇ ਭਾਈ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੀ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ। ਕੋਈ ਗਲਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਇਆ, ਇਹ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ।
Koi galt nahi hoya, nothing wrong has been done. Those who defame religion by spreading vulgarity, obscenity must be taught a lesson and that there's nothing wrong. These are false identities. Now remember, because it's not just a random individual saying it, he heads the Akal Takht, he's at the top position and therefore that the masses can pick up such a lesson. Now, I'm joined by Kamaljeet Sandhu. Kamaljeet, I remember a few days ago we were talking about this murder, what happened, who could be behind it. But this is a concerning situation. Logically, any head would say to not take law into your own hands, to ensure that the law follows, may keep peace. How is this being seen as a sentiment on the ground?
Well, remember, it's not really easy for people to actually speak against the Akal Takht Granthi.
True.
But let me just tell you, this is not just a shocking but a bizarre statement as such. Because remember, any sort of a justification cannot be done as far as violence is concerned. And remember, a killing of a young woman is concerned.
Yes.
She may be in the wrong, but doesn't mean that there are people who could take law into their hands. And what we've been told is two Nihangs who've been accused, and then there's another one, Amritpal Mehroon, who's at large, who has escaped to UAE. So this is where it's been a huge cause of concern. That not only has there been justification that nothing wrong is done, saying several of those people who are not from the religion have taken in their names, because remember, Kanchan Kumari has also been known as Kaur, and this is where there is a justification now coming in that this kind of vulgarity cannot be accepted, and there are people who are actually giving a bad name to the religion, but a justification of this kind is simply not acceptable. And perhaps what we've seen earlier also, there have been an outreach done as far as several segments are concerned, including the police department, where they've actually approached. Because remember, this is a larger messaging, and Malkit Singh is additional head Granthi in Akal Takht, so which is very important messaging as far as whatever he has to say to the people. But here it is a controversial remark being made, but clearly it's also election time, and remember, A lot of these
Of course.
politicians are based in Ludhiana at this point of time. But it'll be surprising
And
to
the Akal
see
Takht, of
if
course,
they actually
as much
speak against
religious,
it.
is
Yes,
a powerful political seat as well. Remember, this is the chief seat, the chief center of religious authority in a lot of ways when it's about sermons, messaging, a larger messaging that must go out to the people, and people do listen to religious figures. I'm joined by Brinda Adige, social rights activist. Brinda, my concern is I'm sure there's a lot being done in the name of Sikhism which is objectionable, which raises questions, especially Khalistani extremism, for example. And yet to go after a young woman, kill her, and then for someone at the helm of affairs to say, kuch galat nahi hoya. My point is, how do you think that is going to impact the society?
First and foremost, we must understand that irrespective of their religious strength and backing that they have with political parties or politicians, this is murder. It is a criminal
Yes.
offense according to our constitution. We are a democracy and not a theocratic state. And given that as our political, social outlook, Akal Takht making that kind of a statement, the Khalistani statement that just because she has put out something on her YouTube is against their religion and so murdering her is correct, is absolutely unacceptable. I do not know what the DGP is doing over there. He should have gone ahead to book a case against the people who have made this kind of a statement and immediately constitute an SIT so that the criminals, the murderers are arrested. They cannot be sitting there and saying this is what their religion is talking about. If every religion decides that this is the right way that I want to treat my women and so I will murder them if it doesn't accept my
Exactly.
morality. Unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Brinda, what is the role of religious figures here? Because politicians will say all sorts of things, but you and I know that people listen to these religious figures, gurus, those who are at the helm of affairs, the way they reach out to the masses. When someone like that says, "Theek kiya jo kiya," this is how they need to be policed. I can only imagine the pressure that it puts on, especially women influencers. I'm sure men could be doing similar things with guns and drugs. They don't face that kind of aftermath.
You're absolutely right. It is only all the conditions, all these morality is only for women and not for men. But when it comes from a religious head, it just goes to show that they are no different from the Taliban. They are no different from the other theocratic leaders in some of the other Arab countries. How are they different? And when they make these kind of statements, imagine the plight of women and young girls in homes and communities. Our government is doing everything to ensure that there is progress, there's development, there's equality. And here you have a religious head speaking like this. Will God really say something like that to all his creatures?
Brinda, my
Has
final
God
question.
ever
Let me
told
be the
you?
devil's advocate here. Let's take his point. He says there's obscenity, vulgarity in the name of religion. That also needs to be stopped. What do you say to that? As an activist, as someone who's been tracking social media, there are a lot of questions that we raise on how social media also is misused. But what do you say to something like this that he mentions, that if there is vulgarity, obscenity, especially in the name of religion, so to say, that such actions are justified? What can be done on that front? Let's talk about that also.
Such action is not justified under any guise. Not under religious vulgarity, not under religious morality, not under religious theocratic, nothing. You have laws in this land and our constitution is supreme. You could have registered a case. Maybe she could have got arrested, fight the case and probably be put behind bars for the rest of her life. I don't know. But go by the law, because if you as a religious head say that I can murder somebody and get away with it in the name of religion, then we want to ask the question, what is religion all about? Is not religion about life? Is not religion about love? Is not religion about forgiveness? What is religion? Religion cannot be a set of rules for men and a set of rules for women.
Concerning issues. I appreciate you joining us, Brinda Adige. Kamaljeet continues to be with us. This also reminds me of an incident in 2022 in JNK when one Amrina Bhatt, a social media influencer, was shot dead right outside her house. At this juncture, Kamaljeet, how is this case being seen? Of course, there are cases going to be filed by the police. Has anyone been arrested yet in this case? We have a whole international terrorist angle also coming in. But because it's of religious nature, like you're mentioning, it's very difficult to also take on or counter possibly what the larger religious sentiment is.
One of the things is that Kanchan Kumari, alias Kamal Kaur Bhabi, as she was known as from her Instagram account, what is important is the sort of understanding of what goes on. Remember, this is a pure case of moral policing because of which she was killed. Now, there are obviously issues where you can flag issues of obscenity, vulgarity,
Correct.
perhaps a lot of mechanism, but this is open internet. So that is where even if some people who were utilizing and perhaps the objection was that she was using the word core. And this is where two Nihangs came in. They actually first warned her and then eliminated her. Then there is another pro-Khalistani person who's Amritpal Mehroon, who actually tried to convince her and then met her, then lured her to Bhatinda, and she was eventually strangulated, and her body was found in the car. Now, the murder itself was extremely gruesome. But meanwhile, it's the messaging to the world, it's the messaging to the population, and this is where there are many wrongs as far as justification is concerned, that nothing wrong being done. Also talking about how there is a connection where people who are not from the religion are utilizing names Singh or Kaur, and this is where this particular controversial statement has come in. Now remember, the murder, as I mentioned to you, is shocking. This is a case of moral policing, but instead of condoning it, remember, there's a justification coming onto it. But at this point of time, remember, there are elections, especially in Ludhiana.
That's
West.
important.
It's going to be important whether it's the Man government or the others who are actually going to back the statement or go against it. But remember, this is a fine line. And the messaging is very important as far as the community is concerned. People look up to Akal Takht. He's an additional Granthi there, one of the head Granthis in Golden Temple. And that is why it becomes very important as to what he's saying and the sort of messaging that has now gone out.
By-polls in Ludhiana in election season often have statements that are made or turns that come in that can be controversial too. Thank you, Kamaljeet, for the latest on that. Remember, this is where communities come in. That they can get together, resolve issues that do not lead to the murder of young women. Listen in and decide for yourself what one of the head Granthis of the Akal Takht, a very important center when it comes to Sikhism, has to say on the murder of this influencer.
ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਦਿਨ ਇਸ ਕਾਰਜ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਵਿਸ਼ੇਸ਼ਤਾ ਦਾ ਦਿਹਾੜਾ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਗੁਰੂ ਹਰਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨੇ ਪਾਵਨ ਤਖਤ ਰਚਿਆ। ਉੱਥੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਲਚਰਤਾ ਭਰੇ ਗੀਤ ਤੇ ਗੰਦਗੀ ਤੋਂ ਦੂਰ ਰਹਿਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਨੇ ਉਪਦੇਸ਼ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਮੇਰੇ ਮੋਹਨ ਇਹ ਸਾਕਤ ਨਾਦ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗੀਤ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਰਵਣਾਂ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੈਣੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ। ਭਾਵ ਸਾਡੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਨੌਜਵਾਨੀ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ, ਹਿੰਦੂ ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨ ਤੇ ਸਮੁੱਚੇ ਵਰਗ ਦੇ ਨੌਜਵਾਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਗੰਦੇ ਗੀਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੁਣਨੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ। ਪਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਲੋਕ ਕਾਰਜ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਧਰਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਨਾਮ ਚੇਂਜ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਕੌਮ ਨੂੰ ਬਦਨਾਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਤੇ ਭਾਈ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਹੀ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ। ਕੋਈ ਗਲਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਇਆ, ਇਹ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਵੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ।